You are now tuned in.
You are now tuned in to Let's Talk About Healing.
And for the version of me that got me here did its job. But this version of me has to evolve again in order to get to the next level.
We so focused on the negative outcome. It changed the narrative that's going on in your head. Instead of looking at what can go wrong, obsess over what can go right.
That part.
Now here's your host, Yvonne Pierre.
Hello and welcome to season 3 of Let's Talk About Healing. Now, usually I have various guests discussing topics about healing the mind, body, and spirit. But this season, I'll be joined by a special guest co-host, April F. Draine, a dedicated wife and mother with corporate experience who passionately advocates for the undervalued and underserved. She leads women ministries, support homeless families, and ensure the welfare of foster care children as a court-appointed special advocate, embodying resilience and commitment in her advocacy. If you're new to the show, please check out season 1 and 2. Do yourself a favor, binge on it. Some really awesome conversations. April, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Yvonne. Happy to be here. Excited.
Yes. The reason why I wanted you to be on the show, not just be a guest on the show, but be a guest co-host, because you do a lot of recordings on your Facebook and you go live and you have these food for thoughts, and the way that you present it, you're very transparent. You speak from the heart, and it resonates. And something just nudged me and said, she needs to be on the show. And I wanted to have this because I wanted to do it last season, but I decided not to. But I said, okay, I'm going to do it this season to just have me and someone to have a one-on-one conversation with. And you just kept coming to mind, and I reached out to you, and I'm so glad that you said yes.
See, we didn't talk about this before we started this. It's amazing that you said that, because this past year and a half, if I can be completely honest, going live I didn't start going live until October of 2022. And I mean, I'd post a video here and there, but I had decided after several unctions and promptings that, okay, I need to be obedient in this season. And I kept feeling like God kept telling me to go live, but also to do a podcast. But I was like, I don't know how to do a podcast. And so I at least want to show God that I'll be obedient and get outside of my fear. So when I started to do the Facebook Lives, it was really to be obedient, but not knowing what was going to come of it. And you are actually one of the people who would ever so often inbox me or encourage me or even comment on my lives. And I was doing them scared, if I could be completely honest.
Yeah.
But the fact that going live when I did, and the fact that you were one of the people who would comment and encourage, and then to see where we are now, I'm grateful. I don't know what's to come of this beyond season 3, but just know that I am appreciative of your work and your voice and your encouragement and the opportunity to be able to have this space with you. So thank you so much.
So just to let the listeners know, today we're talking about temptation and commitment. And that's just something that we tend to struggle with in different areas of our life. But amazingly, it's typically things that matter to us that we struggle with more than our commitment to others.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, April, what are some things or something that is a daily commitment that you might struggle with?
I can honestly answer that in so many different directions. And ironically, I'm wearing a sweatshirt now that says motherhood is my ministry. And one of the daily commitments that I struggle with is as I parent my kids, I'm still yet parenting myself.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the temptation is I want to give my kids the very best of me, but I'm also learning that I'm still learning what the best of me looks like.
Yeah.
And I can sometimes give up on that because of just all of us as humans. We're just like, we have our own frailties. I've spoken about my health, from type 2 diabetes to the anxieties to going from corporate to going to more in the community space. And I've had to learn how to switch gears, shift gears ever so often. Each time I'm shifting gears, I'm also trying to say, how am I showing the best of me for my kids? Because they are going to grow up and this is part of their foundation. And I want to give them the best. So sometimes I'm tempted to give up on me, as crazy as that sounds, because I want them to have the best
Not
of
at
me.
all.
I don't know how to, I'm not even sure if I'm even explaining it right. I'm sure as we keep talking and
Yeah.
I'll be able to piggyback off of you, but to be the best version of me means I'm always having to shift and realign, and because they're touching people that I can't touch. They're in spaces that I'm not in. So their temptation sometimes to give up is like, okay, look, at this age and stage, if I haven't gotten it, but as quick as I'll say it, it's a no. I have to keep going. I want my kids to see a better version of their mother so that they have something. They don't have to be me. They can be a better version for themselves. So I'm constantly working on my health. I'm constantly working on reading. I'm constantly working on my relationships. I'm constantly trying to stay in tune with what can make me better. Not that I'm not pleased with who I am or I'm not content, but as long as I'm in this body, I'm trying to get better. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm also interested in hearing your thoughts on that as well. So what does it look like for you?
I think, and I like that, because being a parent, we do have to commit daily to being a parent, and a lot of times it's subconscious. We could subconsciously commit and recommit to being a parent, because we do have those moments that, we feel like we're not good enough. And me having a son that have special needs, I'm always questioning, can I do better? Is there more I can do to help him? So yeah, I think that parenting is one of the many things that we have to commit to.
Yeah.
That is part of our role. And sometimes people look at parenting as something separate from what your role is. No, it's a slash. It's part of your purpose, and part of who you are is being a parent. Is not, something like, okay, I would be this if I wasn't a parent. No, that's that's part of who you are. Right. And the thing that I wanted to touch on is, in the past, I used to struggle with projects, for example. But I would be overcommitted to helping other people with their projects. Yeah. For example, if somebody came to me and said, hey, Yvonne, I want to start a business, I used to stop everything I'm doing and I would, you need a logo. I'm designing the logo. I'm designing their website. I'm designing. Now I don't went ham on helping.
Come on, I see,
helping them with the business.
Yeah.
But while they're asleep, they're not even putting that level of commitment to their own business. Yeah. And I had to start questioning myself.
That part.
Like, okay, you have all these things that you want to do. Like for years, I kept saying, I'm going to write a book, but I wouldn't commit to it. So I said, instead of me looking at it, this is my second book, but my first real book.
They all real.
Long story. So for years, I kept putting it off. Yeah. And I was like, okay, but when somebody asked me to help them with theirs, I'm overcommitted. So what's the problem? what is the issue with me committing to something that I say I want, but overcommitting to something they say they want? So I had to start looking at it, detaching from it, and looking at it as if God is asking me to do this assignment versus me wanting to do this assignment, because
that's deep. I like that.
It had to be something outside of me for me to stay committed to it. But that's also another issue, that why does it have to be something outside of me for me to stay committed to it? So I had to really work on my self-esteem, my fears of it not being good enough. And I used this example before, like if your boss asks you to do something, you're committed to getting it done.
Yeah.
But you don't question if you're good enough. You don't question if you can do it. You're focused on getting it done.
Yeah.
Even in school, that you have an assignment to do, and you're going to do whatever it takes to get it done and get it turned in on time. So I had to learn how to trick myself into looking at my projects as assignments so I could commit daily to it. And sometimes I still fall astray because I know that it's my project. So I had to start being intentional about staying focused on committing, just the commitment part, committing to getting it done and setting a date and a deadline, and then make it bigger than me.
You said so much that I'm trying to figure out which one of those I even want to comment on, but the fact that I was going to ask, at what point did you start to see the trajectory change? Because like you mentioned, sometimes it's like, okay, what is that thing that's making me put more effort into their thing, into their project, but I'm not putting as much effort and time into mine. And so I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. So did you say that it took you some time to work on your self-esteem, and then just doing it as if God was calling you to do it, but then also recognizing that, okay, I don't want it to always be something outside of me, that I was trying to make sure I'm not trying to connect.
Yeah. And I did kind of go back and forth.
No. And I'm like, I think there's a connection there. But I want to make sure I wasn't connecting it if that's not what you were trying to say.
Yeah. So I did. I had to, because simultaneously I had to deal with both. I had to deal with why is it hard for me to commit to myself, and everything else I'm overly committed to, but why is it such a struggle when it's something that, that's been placed on my heart for me to do? And I had to put it in perspective and say, okay, these are assignments. So regardless of how you feel, just like when you're, if I'm doing it for you, I still have to have that same level of commitment.
Yeah.
Regardless of the self-esteem, regardless of the internal battles and struggles that I'm having, I still have to commit to it because it was instructed for me to get this project done.
See, that's the part that's taken me literally in this past year for me to go ahead and get past my feelings. Because up until then, their project is better. They seem like they need help, or they seem like, or let me put more of my energy and time into theirs, because I'm not sure if mine is really worth. I'm not sure if someone would listen. I'm not sure. And the whole time God is saying, get past your feelings.
Yeah.
But Lord, I don't feel like, and I don't think that people will hear or receive. And so until I feel it's perfected, let me just help somebody else.
And theirs ain't perfected.
And that's the thing, is like this whole facade of like, but I think it goes back to even what you were saying a bit earlier. You said there's a certain level of insecurity of the way you see yourself versus your boss. If your boss is saying, hey, this is an assignment, you're not questioning it. You're just like, okay, let me go ahead and get it done. But then for me, when I'm hearing God telling me for the past however many years, April, I need you to go ahead and do this, my brain is saying I am when I feel like someone else is doing it with me. Or I will when I feel like I think I'll be better received if and when I have these letters behind my name. Yes, I have my bachelor's degree, but I don't have a degree from a college in this specific area under this specific topic. All I have, God, is just my life experience.
Right.
But that's not going to be enough. And the whole time he's still telling me to go ahead and do it.
Right.
And it's me getting caught up in my insecurity of feeling like I'm not enough because compared to other people. So comparison has been a reason for me sometimes to decommit from assignments. And I like the way you mentioned that this is really an assignment.
Yeah.
Has less to do about your feelings. It's connected to something bigger than you. It's something that has probably is not even really about you. You're just a vessel, a conduit for this to be done. And so when you can shift your perspective of, yes, I feel insecure. Yes, I don't feel like I'm enough. And yet you still are telling me to do this. So, okay, let me focus on and yet you're still telling me to do this. Or yet I believe that there is something bigger than my feelings.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let my feelings slow me down or stop me from committing to this big assignment.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's daily bites or daily reminders of this is bigger than me. Sometimes with my anxiety, I had to learn some years ago 4 words that I just say whenever I felt the anxiety of, oh, let me just stop. I would just say, God, you're in control. That would just be my way of stepping outside of the situation. April, you don't have control of it. You're not going to be the one to make or break the situation. Just give your best and do what you believe you have been called to do in this moment, in this season, and leave the rest up to what God is, what you believe God will do with it. And so when I stop worrying about, well, what is it going to look like in the end? And just focus on, okay, I was told this is just what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. And what I pull from that, and it keep playing over in my head, is that the fear is more of the outcome.
Yes.
It's the outcome because as far as commitment, whether it's commitment in a relationship, whether it's commitment in motherhood, whether it's the commitment in business or whatever it is, the ultimate fear for me is the outcome.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about the outcome when I'm doing it for my boss. If I'm doing it because I know that, I'm doing it for them. Yeah. And as long as they're satisfied, where it go beyond that ain't got nothing to do with me.
Right. That part.
But in a relationship, the fear of commitment is what if I do all this?
Come on.
What if I write this film? What if I write this book? What if I commit to this person and in the end it don't work?
That part. And we'll let the what if stop us from even making the first step.
You're not going to start. If you think you're going to fall, you're not going to jump.
Yep. Say it again. Say it one more
time.
If
you think you're going to fall,
listen,
you're not going to jump.
Listen.
So let's talk about temptation for a moment.
Okay.
So in committing, temptation.
Yeah.
How do you define temptation or understand temptations in regard to daily life?
I know there's the definition out there, but I don't have it memorized. But for me, temptation is something that resonates with something that I like. But can very well, if not put in check and with the proper balance or management, can be a hindrance to me. So I like chocolate. I like strawberry shortcake. I like, but you couldn't tempt me with a chocolate mousse cake or a chocolate mousse pie. I like chocolate candy, but I don't like chocolate mousse pie. So it's something in me that enjoys something about this particular thing, but if it's left unchecked or unbalanced, it could actually deter me. It could actually hinder me from whatever my ultimate goal is. Yeah. So yeah, just a simple kind of different definition of temptation for me. And I have to keep it in check because, again, like I made reference to being type 2 diabetic, before I found out I was type 2 diabetic, my go-to were the different little Debbie cakes and the cakes and candies and the whatever, because I'm like, okay, I don't smoke, I don't drink, but give me some sugar and I will keep going like the Energizer Bunny. Yeah. And it was just kind of like a thing that I'd always had in me. But then when I realized after the diagnosis that, okay, you can't keep eating the way you were eating or coping the way you've been coping and think that you're going to live a healthy, long life. Yeah. So the temptation now for me to keep it in check is, yes, it's still there. Yes, I could see some chocolate and some strawberry cake with strawberry icing and give me a scoop of strawberry ice cream, and I will almost lose my mind if I don't remind myself my why. So I have to keep in consideration, why is it that I'm not indulging in the same things that I used to? Why is it that the things that they weren't necessarily even temptations, they were just indulgences. Yeah. Now they're temptations to the point where if I don't put them in check, or kind of like, when you're going bowling for the little kids, they put up the little guardrails because, okay, you just ain't quite strong enough yet to push the ball by yourself down this little bowling lane. So we'll put the guardrails up for you so that even if your ball rolls, it's not going to go in the gutter. It may take you a little time to get your little ball down to the end of the pins. So I have to have guardrails in place for myself. And some of my guardrails are reminding myself of my why. I want to live a long life. I want to be here long enough to not just see my children grow up. I want to see my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. Yeah. Like, I literally want to see my kids and a legacy. And in order for me to live it and to see it in a healthy way, as healthy as I can, I recognize what my temptations are. They're not leaving. As long as I'm in this flesh, it's going to always be there. But my why is bigger than my temptation. Yeah. So that's how I kind of try to keep myself in check and stay committed to a lot of my decisions, of my whys, of why I want to be here. Yes, I believe strongly in legacy. Yes, I believe strongly in whole life, healthy living, not just on the physical, but mental, all of those things. So I have to remind myself of those things daily, and I have to use them as my guardrails. And so sometimes I don't go to certain places because that day I may recognize it may be more temptation there at this family get together or at that particular function. It's going to be a whole lot of. And if I haven't eaten or planned myself or prepared myself, I may very well walk into the lion's den. Yeah. So I have to know myself, keep myself in check, and recognize I may not be as strong as I think I am today. And that's okay because my why is bigger. So kind of a long answer to that, but I hope I kind of answered your question on that part.
Yeah. Well, I'm also diabetic, type 2 diabetic.
Gotcha.
And for me, I realized that temptation only works when I'm vulnerable.
Ooh, that part. Come on, talk about it.
When sometimes I'm seeking a distraction.
Oh, come on.
Because of something that's internally going on with me. When I was first diagnosed, I was 31.
Okay.
And I was in the hospital. I went to the hospital. They said I had like a pre-stroke or whatever. But I got really sick, was in the hospital for 3 days. And that's when I found out I was diabetic.
Wow.
And so when they told me, sugar, you're going to have to, the nurse had a talk with me and she said, told me here's the parameters. You need to stay within 15 carbs per meal, limit your meals, blah, 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 whatever. I lost a lot of weight. And for 15 years, you couldn't pay me to eat candy or anything sweet. If it was sweet, I avoided it like it was a plague.
Wow.
And there was no temptation because I lost the actual taste for sweets. Mentally, I had to be very drastic In my mind, I said, if I eat it, it's going to kill me.
Wow. Okay.
Now, I don't know if I lost the taste or if God took the taste away. And the reason is because I didn't have medication. I didn't have health insurance. So I was like, I don't have medicine to control this.
You did this cold turkey?
I went cold turkey. You couldn't pay me to eat it. I did the same. I've been vegetarian for 4 years.
Wow.
I have no taste for meat. None. I can be in a meat factory. I have no desire because in my mind, I have made it so disgusting.
Wow.
That you can't pay me to eat it. However, there was a time once I got on medication and did have health insurance, once I gave myself the excuse of, oh, you got medicine, I lost my mind. Do you hear me?
Wow. Okay.
I start really binging on junk food. I lost my mind. Because imagine I went from 15 years of not eating it to, oh, I can eat it. Now I want to taste everything. And I was like, I have to get back to that place where there was no temptation.
Wow.
I have a way of eliminating the temptation until I want it. So if I'm seeking distraction, for example, if I'm working on a project, sometimes I'll go on Facebook or never ending scrolling on YouTube video after video. And I look up and hours done went by and I'm like, I was supposed to be writing. Why am I avoiding writing?
That word. That's the word.
I'm avoiding writing and I'm looking for temptation. I'm looking for distractions.
Yeah.
So knowing how I am when I'm like committed.
Yeah.
When I'm not committed, I look for, okay, what's wrong? Why am I allowing myself to not be committed and having to constantly recommit to my diet, having to recommit to, my project? And that's fear. And I have to psychologically say, okay, Yvonne, you got to get back on track.
Yeah.
So what do I need to do to get back on track? And a lot of times it's something inner going on with me that's keeping me off track.
Yeah.
So I'll go down. I'm like, okay, if you're going to spend all this time on YouTube, then you need to be watching stuff that's going to benefit you.
True. Yeah. Okay.
So I'll watch. Why am I procrastinating?
Listen, I'm sorry. I have
to
go
ahead.
This. The fact that you, and again, this is interesting to me because it worked for you.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you said that you noticed that you don't know if it was you or God, but for however and whatever, for 15 years, no one could pay you to eat anything sweet. But when you saw that you had options, i.e. medical insurance or medicine, then that gave you, or you allowed yourself to taste and see a few more things that you.
Yeah.
So for you, are you saying, and again, this is for you because for me, I had to find healthy substitutes. It's like, okay, for me to do cold turkey, the anxiety started for me.
Yeah.
But that's me. For you, was it the fact that there were like, okay, I need to have no other options, and I don't need to have I don't want to say a crutch or guardrails like I mentioned that works well for me. Two people with the same type of situations, but our approaches to get to what worked well for us might be kind of what some people like, okay, whoa, that's a lot, but it worked for you. I'm just fascinated by
all or nothing.
That's you?
That's me. I'm an all or nothing.
Okay. So that's okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So if I can't have it the way I want to have it, there's no moderation for me. because I know that moderation will lead me down a dark path.
Okay, but have you always known that about yourself, though?
No. I'm not sure. I think it's something that naturally I'm like, well, I couldn't put it into words.
Gotcha.
But I'll be like, oh, if I can't have it the way I want it, I don't want it.
Yep, I got you.
And I think the bottom line is there's no temptation if, like you said earlier, there's no temptation if there's no desire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I take away the desire for it psychologically.
Gotcha.
So that way I can be around it and I have no desire, no temptation for it. So, and also, like I said, as far as vulnerability, I'm only tempted if I want to be.
Listen, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
So how does commitment, or why does commitment matter regarding personal development? Because you've lost a lot of weight. I've seen the pic. How much did you lose?
At my highest, I was 262. So I've lost 70 pounds over the course of 8-9 years. And this, even with losing the weight, I realized up until a couple of years ago that there are some things that even food or the lack of food can't fix. There are some situations, and you said it earlier, like learning what your triggers are.
Yeah.
And having to just learn that, okay, I can lose all the weight, but why am I gaining anxiety? I lost weight, but now I'm gaining this extra insecurity, or everyone says you look good, but why? So I realized that there's still some inner work or some deeper work that the outside, as much as you can lose all the weight, and you can dress it up and fix it up. And that's cute.
Because it's not matching.
Yes. That
it's
part.
Not matching.
And that's where I started to recognize the anxiety was coming from. My insides were not matching my outside.
Yeah.
And the fear of certain things, or why is it, okay, I look good, quote unquote, on the outside, but why am I still feeling X, Y, and Z? The same feelings that would still make me want to go grab the cookies and the candy. So let me deal with that.
Yeah.
And that took some time of, I did this should fix it. That didn't quite fix it like I thought it would fix it. Or like some people said, I climbed the corporate ladder, or this is where I finally got here. And it's like, not what I thought.
Yeah.
Because there's something else. There's something deeper that you have to work on. So again, back to your initial question of the personal development, it's realizing it's some things, there are certain voids that are deeper that even you can go to the hospital and the doctors all day long. They'll never find it on a scan. They'll never find it. You look fine. We don't see anything wrong, but you're like, something's not right. Something's not connecting. And that's when you realize it's something deeper. I got to go deeper inside of me. I have to face the fear of what's in here that I've been stuffing down with food and with facades. What's in here, and I want to deal with it so I can live freer and lighter, not lighter physically, but just lighter emotionally, mentally, you know what I mean? So owning that personal development piece is huge when you realize that it's more work, inner work, that you can't put on everyone else. It's really a matter of, I have to sit with me and be okay with this and know that I'm going to be better for it if I just simply just take the time.
Yeah. And the commitment that it took to lose the weight, to keep it off.
Yeah.
Even though it may fluctuate.
Yeah.
But committing to not go back to that size you were.
Yeah.
Does take some personal development, some inner work,
learning some new skills.
Yeah. And some creating healthier habits.
Yeah.
Committing to losing the weight, there are going to be things that you're going to have. Part of that commitment is going to take doing some things that you may not like to do.
Yeah.
And that's like, wasn't a fan of working out. Mm-hmm. But I knew that in order for me to reach the goal, in order for me to stay healthy, in order for me to do the self-development, the personal development part, there are some things that I had to commit to.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you have to change who you are. The old you can't, like you were saying, when you shed it, that whole person, that whole teenager,
yeah,
or that elementary school student that you shed it, when you can't be the same person, and if you're operating in the same mindset that you were then, it's a mismatch. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, and you are going to go back to the temptations and having to constantly recommit because you haven't changed the person.
Yeah.
And that's where personal development comes in. You have to change some things about yourself in order for you to do the new thing.
That part.
Because I can't, like, even with business, going from working a 9 to 5, you have to change. There's some benefits in working a 9 to 5. Yeah. Some skills and scheduling and a way and the discipline and all that stuff that you have to take into business.
Yeah.
But there's still a different mindset that you have to have, because you went from being an employee to an employer. You can't have the same mindset.
Right.
So whether it's weight loss, whether it's business, whether it's writing, whatever it is, there are certain things that you have to develop, part of personal development, that you have to commit to.
Yeah.
That's what commitment, and that's how commitment is beneficial too, because it puts you in the habit of being disciplined.
Yeah. Oh, that word.
It teaches you commitment is part of discipline.
Yes.
And if the lack of discipline will destroy your personal development. In a sense that if somebody's constantly disappointing you and saying, oh, I'll be over there at 8, and they never show up. What, as a friend, there's going to be, oh, I can't trust this person.
Yep.
Doing that to yourself, you are developing some negative thoughts about yourself, because you can't stay committed to yourself.
Yes.
So you're like, oh, I can't trust me. Then that's when the negative talk come in. That's when you have to work on both.
That's good.
The self-development, because it's going to help you stay committed. It's going to help you be on time. It's going to help you be a better friend to yourself.
Yeah.
And part of that is you have to get rid of that negative talk. You have to figure out a way. If I can commit to anything, I told several people, as far as discipline, which is commitment in a sense. Oh, I'm not disciplined to do that. Oh, I'm not disciplined to do this. And I said, yes, you are. If you're disciplined in any area of your life, you have discipline. The problem is you're not committing to that thing.
Come on, make a distinction: commitment versus discipline. Okay, I see what you did there. Okay, come on.
You're not committing. You're not committing to that thing. Like, you committed to your job, you committed to school, you committed to all these other things, but you're not committed to you.
Yeah. Ooh.
And you have to, or you even committed to God. I told one girl, I want to save lives and I want to do this. And this was many, many, many years ago. And she was like, but I want to also, do these other things. But I said, she was very devout in her faith. And I said, the problem is not that you have a lack of faith in God. I said, the problem is you have a lack of faith in yourself. Well, you're struggling because you're committed to God, but you're not committed to you. And a lot of people feel like, especially people that have certain faiths, feel like, no, it's not about me, it's about God. But God created you for a divine reason. He gave you a purpose. He gave you an assignment, and you have to commit to yourself.
Come on.
Because I can read the Bible, and I can pray and all that stuff, but I'm not committed to my purpose. That's two different commitments.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have to get past it's psychological. You have to work on yourself. You can't just chase your purpose. You can't just quit smoking. You can't just, whatever it is you're trying to commit to, you have to work on yourself in the meantime, so you can, when you're stepping into that new body, you need to be stepping into that new mind too.
So will you say that commitment is a decision? Like you deciding on something. I decided that I'm going to be in this relationship. I decided I'm going to show up for work. I decided I'm going to be in this relationship. But to be disciplined in that commitment requires action, intentional action to support your decision.
Yeah.
And I the way you just did that, you're like, you committed, but you have not, you have discipline, but you haven't applied that same type of discipline in this particular area of this particular commitment.
Right.
That's a whole something right there. But that is good.
Faith without work was dead.
We're doing all the acts of it.
You can, I pray, praise whoever you praise.
Yeah.
But you can't just pray for a job. You just
you need to put some.
You need to work on your resume.
Yeah.
You need to, because God helps those who help themselves.
Yeah. And it's a partnership.
You got to do the work.
Yeah. He's partnering with you. You are a vessel for him to do something in this earth with. He can't use a vessel that's not available. You can't just say, use me, Lord. But he like, okay, but I need you to be able to go over to Africa in 2 weeks.
Right.
Oh, my health ain't right. Well, I've been telling you get your health right. I've been telling you get that passport. I've been telling you to. So there's a partnership that we sometimes can kind of be a little bit lackadaisical with when we come to our commitment and involvement with the commitment. Back to just that whole statement of, he will help those who help themselves. We can't figure it all out. We can't do it all in our own strength, but there is a certain level of responsibility that we can definitely take on, because we do have a certain responsibility on this side of heaven in this physical body. It's not your mama job or your daddy job, your husband job, your boo job to make you stay committed or to stay disciplined to the commitment that you said that you have said a whole lot. I'm trying to keep up with the writing of my notes over here. Listen, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But I love the way you segued into that, but also made a very distinction that there is commitment, but there's also a certain level of discipline, and there are two separate things. And sometimes we can confuse the two. But that's good.
Yeah, and it takes recommitting. It takes,
and
there's nothing wrong with that, saying, okay, I didn't get it right, because you got to give yourself some grace. You can't be so hard on yourself, because that makes it worse. Like, once you fall off, get up. Don't just lay there like, because there's been times where I fell off the wagon from eating certain foods, and I stay on down there like, well, since I'm here. Since I'm down here, let me go ahead and get that bag of chips. Yeah. So, but what I have to get in the habit of doing is saying, okay, you ate them 5 chips. Now you need to recommit yourself. How do I get back on it? How do I get back recommitted?
Yeah.
But I want to go into building resilience to overcoming the challenges. So let's say you fell off the wagon, or you whatever it is you're trying to commit to, and you're struggling with it. and building a resilience to overcome those challenges. So, okay, so next time, instead of doing this, I do that. So what has helped you in your experience to overcome some of those challenges, whether it was dieting or whatever the goal was?
It's funny when you mentioned falling off the wagon. When I was thinking about the word resilience, I was thinking about the fact that I have fallen off of the proverbial or the quote unquote pedestal and this is before the health and the diagnosis of diabetes. Mm-hmm. Certain life decisions that happened earlier in my life as like a 19, 20-year-old, to some people, I was put on a certain pedestal, and I guess I didn't realize I was on this pedestal where I was seen as a certain way. But then when I became pregnant as a 19-year-old, as after my freshman year in college, the response that I received, the support that I once had in certain ways that I had grown to, this is just what it is. To see so much of that change, or the view of the people who were bold enough, I'll say it that way, to be bold to tell me who I was no longer going to be because of that. And I'm knowing that I'm not the first person to ever get pregnant.
What made people put you on a pedestal?
I would say because of I grew up in a 2-parent household. My mom, Sunday school teacher, missionary, traveled with like doing foreign mission. My father, a deacon in the church, sang in the choir. So it's kind of like you look like you have it all together, or the quote unquote ideal family, and going to a pretty decent school and all the things. So because of the certain lifestyle that my parents raised us in, and the big portion of that being in church, it was okay, you're being groomed to be this type of person, or April is going to grow up to be. I was involved in a lot of stuff in church, so a lot of it came from the upbringing of being in church and the type of parents that I have. So to go off to college my first year in college, and to come back at the end of my freshman year pregnant, it was a wait, that was not in the cards. Wait, you weren't on track to do that. Maybe someone else who was raised a certain way or didn't have what you had, and you had all the things, so this shouldn't have happened to you. And being in certain leadership roles, all those type of things that I grew up with, and was on track to become whatever I was supposed to be in their eyes. To become pregnant and not married became this whole thing of, wait, that was new to me. To see the people who were always so vocal and so supportive and encouraging, to now hear a new narrative. And again, it wasn't all of them, but there were a lot of loud ones that I was very surprised to hear, especially those who had been in similar situations, or whose children were also going through or had gone through the same situation. So why are you so bold on mine? So anywho, because of that, as a 19, 20-year-old, that was just like life shattering to me and shocking to me, in the fact that, okay, literally people can see you in one vein, and in one decision, they can see you totally different. And having to not necessarily pull myself up by my own bootstraps, because I had a lot of support, but recognizing, okay, the big circle I thought I had to be able to rely on and always have there with me, rooting me on and encouraging me, I can't always look for that, because people are fickle. You can make a decision one day and people like you, and the next day hate you. They did it to Jesus. So again, and I heard people say that they did it to Jesus, but it was like, but still, no, but I'm not Jesus. But it was a recognizing, or an awareness that I had not been familiar with at all. So with that background, to answer your question of resilience, I know what it feels like to be on, or to be seen in a certain light by people, and then to fall in their eyes, and then to try to still keep moving forward without those same voices on the outside. So then it was like, over time, having to learn, if nobody else does, I need to learn how to figure this out. I have a whole child now, so I can't just say, my mama made me sleep with that guy. I can't put it on anybody. Over some time, I have to start learning, I played a part in this. I can't put the blame on somebody else. So to find out about the type 2 diabetes, if I thought about it, my dad had been telling us for the longest, okay, because he worked in the health field. So it was like, okay, if I can really look back, I really can't put this all on family genetics. My daddy was saying certain things. And I also have family members who knew that they had the diagnosis and still lived their life the way they wanted. So it was okay, I can't keep relying on outside people. That was my long way of getting back to answering your question. I can't keep relying on, yes, it's good to have, and we do need support. We do need to have a level of accountability and a good, strong support system, but it's not in a number. I was used to a number. I was used to quantity.
Yeah.
To be able to say, because of them and this number of people and these many voices, I can do X, Y, and Z. Over the last 10 years, and in the most recent 4 and 5, since my family's moved several times with my husband's job moving, is the big circles have gone down to literally less than a handful.
Yeah.
And I have grown to find contentment in that and appreciation in that, because it's not in the corner. We know it. We say it.
Right.
Life shows you really, okay, it's really the quality. So the resilience has come from me learning, and I won't say the hard way. I learned the way I needed to have learned it. That, okay, yes, it's great to have the voices, but you still need to have something inside of you to keep you moving forward. You have to put some guardrails in place. You have to be aware of yourself, be aware of your insecurities. Yes, you like to have people around you. You had that for the longest, but you can't rely on that. So the resilience has come from, again, having been in a certain level in a place in life where I, quote unquote, failed in people's eyes, but then 20 some years later to see my baby, the baby that I had, to see how far God's brought her, how far God's brought me, how far God's brought my children, my younger 2 children, it's like my husband, all of us. It's like, okay, I can still survive.
Yeah,
I can still keep it going. I just have to be conscious and keep some things in perspective and realize, okay, it's not going to be in the numbers. And back to your point from earlier, there's an assignment that I've been given that is to please somebody that's not them. I'm not trying to please them. I'm trying to please the one who created me in the season that he has created me to live this life for as long as he's called me to live it. So the resilience is in knowing that, okay, yeah, you may not have everybody with you, but there is something bigger than you that requires a better version of you, that you just got to keep fighting for that. So,
yeah. Building resilience. I would say mine was.
Listen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
I need to say this. Okay. We have not met in person, but I have followed you, and your resilience I'm surprised that I really should have asked you that question first. Because just from what I've seen you post on social media when I first started following you through a cousin of my cousin, again, we have never met in person, but seeing all that you've done on a professional level, health level, life level, educational level, even up to this point of us having this conversation now, there is so much resilience that I see in you. So I really do want to know what resilience looks like to you, because I know what I see, but for you, what does it look like for you as you live it out?
Well, one, thank you for the compliments.
Yes. I mean, like, that's legit for real.
Yeah. So for me, I was letting the motorcycle go by. For me, it has been because when I graduated, and I'm going to try to make a long story short, I was kicked out of public school. I was sent to an alternative school. And so I had a lot of people around me who had given up on me. I was heavy into drinking by the age of 16. I was fighting all the time. And that's because I went through so much at a very young age that I didn't know how to process it.
Yeah.
So I processed it through anger and hurt and almost self-betrayal. Because not almost, actually self-betrayal, because I did a lot of things that were against myself based on what someone had did to me. From the abuse and all this stuff and people giving up on me and being around a lot of toxicity, I did have a few people that didn't give up.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I had to figure out a way to find that for myself. And that, in addition to God, I had to learn to rely on me because, like you said, people are fickle. Yeah. And, although I was surrounded by a lot of people, I still felt like I wasn't, like I was, because I didn't have, when I said I was going to college, it was a joke. You barely made it out of high school. How you going to go to college? So I learned how to turn that into motivation. Yeah. So when everybody was like, and it was funny that I wanted to go to college and all this stuff, I developed this, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Attitude.
Yeah.
The issue with that was later in life, it's some good and bad. One, it made me very resilient. I don't need a cheering committee. Like when I got ready to go to college in 2007, the admissions person asked, he said, "Do you have a support team?" And I was stumped by that question. And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Do you have a support team?" I said, why are you asking me that? So my response was, it doesn't matter because this is what I want to do. And it doesn't matter who's for it or against it. He said, out of all the years I've worked in this company, that is the best answer. He said, what made you respond like that? I said, because if I'm relying on them and they give up on me, I'm not going to finish. I have to rely on me. And I said, and my whole life had to learn how to rely on me and rely on God. Not saying that I didn't have any support, but because I've had so many people that I thought should be there and they weren't, I didn't trust anybody. Because at this point, it's just words. Yeah. So I had to learn to depend on God and myself and really focus on the goal and not who's booing or who's cheering. I like referring to basketball or to sports. If you're so focused on the people that's cheering and booing, you're going to lose because your focus is not on the game. Your focus is on the wrong thing and on the wrong people. And often in life we do that. And I have had moments because like before social media, my focus is insane. But when I start getting on social media, it's like, oh, they don't support me. Oh, this person don't support me. Oh, I thought they was my friend. And I start caring way too much. And I lost sight of where I was trying to go because I was too focused on who was cheering and who was booing, who's sharing, who liking, who. And I had to get back to the assignment. Whatever challenges you're going through in life or you're struggling to commit to, you have to analyze what is distracting you. And why is it distracting you? Why are you allowing it to distract you? Why do you care that much about something that ain't got nothing to do with where you're trying to go? And because your resilience is really in what you're paying attention to. I know you've probably heard the quote that says, what you focus on grows. Yep. So if you're focused so much on this person doing this and this person ain't doing that, you're not focused on the right thing. Yep. And if you're so focused on everything else, you're going to lose sight of where you're trying to go. One of my favorite, I'm going to say this and then we can move on. One of my favorite movies is The Book of Eli.
That's the one with Denzel, right?
Yes. Dang it, I don't want to spoil it for you.
So what?
I don't want to spoil it for you.
Okay, don't. Well, no, I've seen it. I just can't remember all the details.
Okay. Yeah. So, if you've never seen it, you may want to turn this off for a second. His mission was to go walk all these miles, hundreds of miles, to get the last Bible to this publisher on a boat in New York so they can print more Bibles because everything was scarce. Remember, they was fighting for just basic stuff that we take for granted right now. They were scuffling and stealing and all this stuff. So he was constantly distracted on his mission. He would do whatever he needed to do and keep going. Come to find out, he was blind. Wow. But he continued to stay on his path, and he didn't let anything stop him. So my point in bringing that up is that no matter where we're trying to go, no matter what the destiny is, there are going to be distractions. There are going to be things that come against you on your path. Yeah. But the resiliency he had was, I got to get this Bible by all means necessary. I got to get this Bible to this place.
So again, his why was bigger than him.
And he didn't lose focus. He didn't say, no, they didn't try to come after me, and then
that part.
And get stuck on that. He did whatever he had to do, but he kept going.
Yep. He didn't have sight, but he had vision.
He had vision.
Come on, somebody.
He used his senses.
Come on.
His other senses was heightened to the point. Yeah. And he had, it was his wisdom, and the whole Bible was Braille. So even though somebody tried to take the Bible from him, because that's what they was after, the Bible. They tried to take it from him, but they couldn't do anything with it. And actually they did end up taking the Bible, but he had memorized it.
Okay, that'll teach.
He memorized it. So when he got to his destination, even though they took from him what he had to bring, he memorized it from beginning to end, and he was able to tell them. Remember, he was laying on the table telling them in the beginning, God said, you know what I'm saying? He went from beginning to end because he had memorized the Bible.
See.
Regardless of what they took from him, regardless of how they tried to fight him, regardless of what they tried to do, he still made it to his destination and gave them what they needed.
See, it's so much even in that with, like, you can't take away a person's experience. You may be able to take away a whole lot of things, but you can't tell me what I haven't been through. You can't, like, once I know what I know, I can, even if you try to take away my dignity, you can try to take away my name, but you can't take away what I know in my experience. And the fact that's a lot that can be said with it.
Yeah.
That even with his lack of sight, he still had a vision that still kept him going and allowed him to stay disciplined to the commitment that he made. All the things that we're even talking about, that is a great, I need to go back and watch that movie, but that is a great example of everything that we're really talking about right now.
You have to stay focused. You have to stay focused.
Yep.
Regardless of, you got to stay committed. You got to stay disciplined and stay on path. And the only thing that keeps you on path is, one, your focus. And this is just from my experience.
Yeah.
There were so many jewels that you said. But as far as when you lost weight and having to recommit and having to stay on task, you just have to stay on task and stay resilient and stay. Ultimately, is mindset, is what your mind is on. Mindset is powerful.
Come on, somebody.
Powerful, because you can pray about it. You can, ask God to deliver you. He'll deliver you. But the thing that he delivers you from is your taste for it and your mindset. If you don't change your mindset for that thing, it's not going to change. You can't keep looking at chips being yummy, and I keep going back to chips. But
no, listen,
I have to change how I see chips. I just have to. I have to find, and the reason why in other areas I can be resilient is because my mindset toward that thing has changed. I can be around smokers and not be fazed by it.
Right.
I can be around, meat eaters and not have no temptation to eat the meat. You know, I ain't gonna make you not eat the meat. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you want, have at it. But for me, I don't have any desire, because you have to learn, you have to be able to, you can't just stay in the house.
Yeah. I mean, you can't isolate yourself to the point of like, I will see no evil, I will see no temptation.
Yeah.
No, you still got to live. It's just, how do I live in this world?
Like, and set boundaries.
Be in the world, but not of it. Like, I can be around you and not have to indulge in it and still be just fine. Yeah.
Right.
I put you on that. Yeah.
And prepare. You did say that earlier about being prepared. You have to prepare. If you know they're going to be serving stuff you can't eat, take something with you.
Yeah.
Or eat before you go.
Yeah. Because, and again, to your point, if you're vulnerable, if you leave the house hungry, knowing that you're going to go to this big old family get together where everybody's going to have everything that you know is going to be good.
Yeah.
Why set yourself up for that?
Yeah, you're going to be drooling watching them eat.
Exactly. Like, I'm fine. I'm good.
I'm okay. That look good, though.
That part. Just drooling. So now eat you a little something before you leave the house.
Yeah.
So at least, if anything, it's not this is a real natural thing. Hunger is natural. But the way I address it, okay, that part's on me. I need to address this natural thing in a healthy way without all the different temptations out there. Let me handle me, because I know me. Let me eat this here and here. And let me also bring a backup in case we end up being there for a longer time.
Yeah.
At least I have me a backup, something on me. And even if I do decide to take a bite or two of what they have, it's not me indulging to the point that I done just messed up everything. It's okay, I can handle it because I have all the good stuff in me. And I could take a bite of the little piece of whatever and be okay.
But what I'll do is eat the stuff that I can eat.
Yeah.
And like, oh, they got some greens. Let me overindulge in the greens.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really good, really great. Accountability. How important is it? How important is accountability in maintaining commitment, and what keeps you on track when you want to get off track?
Accountability, yes, and not yes again. The type of accountability is something I've had to learn to be more specific on over the years. But yes to accountability, because we're in this world not to be isolated or to be independent. We're to be interdependent. There's something in you, in me, and in each of us. We all have something that can very well be a help to someone else. So we're called to be relational. So accountability is really important. And it's helpful to me in relationships and in practices and in processes. Sometimes I have to have just my own process of how I keep myself accountable. Okay, I need to have so many hours of sleep. I need to have so much time of rest. I need to have so much time of meditation. I need to have so much time of preparing a week or two ahead outside of getting everybody else's schedules.
Mm-hmm.
The more I can be aware of what helps me, that keeps me accountable. So at least I'm not overcommitting. We started to talk about that earlier. Rather than me overcommitting to, let me help her with this project. No, I already see for the next 2 or 3 weeks, this is what's on my calendar for me, for my kids, for my husband, so that's a good accountability for me, is being as prepared as I can, in the sense of even preparing my meals. If I know it's going to be a busier week than most, okay, so I need to probably go ahead and do my grocery shopping on this day versus later in the week. I typically go on probably a Sunday or Saturday or Sunday, but now because next week's going to be busier, I need to adjust. So planning ahead, knowing so that I can better answer, so I can know what to give my yes to and my no to, because your yeses matter and your no matter, and you can't get time back. So those type of practices help me to stay accountable to the decision and the commitments that I've made, to still be good to my health, to be good for myself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. And so I can give the better of me to my husband and my kids and those God has called me to be in assignment with, because you can't give from an empty cup. So those practices help me. Then I also have people, I'm in counseling. So the counselor that I have is more so for maintenance. I've done a lot of good work over the past couple of years. The current counselor I have It's more so for maintenance, to just kind of be able to check in on things that I said that I want to do. And she helps me with that. I have a couple trusted people who I know I can tell everything, all of my deepest whatevers, and in the end of the conversation, they love me no less. And they will still keep in touch with me, check in on me, and like, hey girl, remember you said, and I saw you slipping. I have people that I've given the permission to be able to call me out on my stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it. I need that. I'm not too proud where I can't have, who are you to tell me? No, I need somebody.
Yeah.
I love you enough as my sister, as my friend, to hold my feet to the fire. Okay, you said you was going to do this, checking in. Where are you with that? Or I heard you, no, don't talk about my best friend like that. You said you was going to work better on that self-talk. So let me call you out right now before you finish that sentence. I've given those few people those permissions. So my 3 accountability, just kind of wrap it back up, or to sum it back up, is my accountability is my own personal practices with being prepared, being as organized as I can be in way of my time and my schedule, my yeses and my nos and my commitments. Following up with my counseling and my doctor's appointments. It's like clockwork. Every 3 to 6 months, I'm checking in with my doctor on my A1C and my blood pressure, my cholesterol. April, you're doing great. That's all I need to know. I just want to make sure that it's still showing what it needs to show. I'm doing what I need to do, but I'm also holding myself accountable to a professional. So professional by way of physician and professional by way of a counselor, and also having those few trusted people who I've given the permission to call me out on my stuff. And they do it in love, and they do it with firmness, and I don't see them any less or any differently. So those 3 things definitely help me. What about you?
Accountability is critical in my journey of healing, and I love that. And I'm the same way. I want people around me to call me out in a loving way.
Yes.
But I want people to call me out and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And I don't take offense to it, as long as it's very loving. But but no. So the things that help keep me on track, help keep me accountable with like my A1C and making sure I stay on track with my health. The picture that I have in my head of what my goal is. My goal keep me accountable. 2, I do check in with my husband and my son, and they know what's going on, or when I'm doing a fast or whatever.
Yeah.
And then my health advocate and the doctor, because I don't like going there and they say, okay, we got to increase your medicine, so
yeah.
So it's almost like a challenge for me, because no matter what, whether you fall off or not, it's going to show in your numbers.
Yep.
So it's going to show when you get on the scale. It's going to show so the scale keeps me accountable. It's going to show when they run your blood work. Yeah. So that does keep me accountable. And I have goals that I set. And so I'm trying to be not as hard on myself, but I set goals like, okay, every week I work out these amount of days, this amount of time, so I have like a schedule that I put myself on. And when I fall off that schedule, I have to be a little more loving to myself, because my accountability is like, girl, like, what was you thinking? Like, why would you do? But I'm trying to be a little more graceful with myself. Yeah. So that way, when I do, slip up or fall off or whatever you want to call it, I'm not so hard on myself that I go backwards. But also what keeps me on track is working on myself.
Yeah.
Working on my mindset, meditating every morning, really setting myself up in the morning, setting goals, and really saying, okay, every morning I've been getting up at 5 something every morning to meditate, pray, and work out before the house wake up. But I have to be more accountable in other areas of my life. Yeah. So I'm still a work in progress, as we all are, but
as we all are.
Yeah, but I'm learning what works, what doesn't work, and being honest with myself, and not like, but being really real and honest with myself. And like you said earlier, really having a strong why. And so that keeps me on track, or puts me back on track. Because when I fall off, it put me back on track.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good.
Yeah. So as we come to a close, what advice would you like to share with the listeners to implement in their daily lives to effectively fight temptation and maintain their commitments?
I think to sum up everything that you and I both have said, it's really just being intentional and knowing what your why is. And yes, you have feelings. Yes, you will have temptations. As long as you are alive and in this body and cognizant of all the different senses, there will always be temptations and feelings that can distract you or detract you from your assignment. But knowing that you are worth the investment to be the best you, and it's not to sound cliche, it literally is that you will not always have the quantity of voices and people to validate you and encourage you and push you along. So there has to be a level of resilience that sometimes life will just have to bring in order for you to develop that resilience. I talked about mine and you talked about yours by way of what it was to make us become even more resilient. And knowing life is going to bring its own set of challenges, but to embrace the challenge, to stay focused on what's bigger, and to stay in tune with your why. And even if it's just one or two practices, it's not that you have to go out and just completely change everything about you and what you are or what's gotten you to this point, but also recognizing it will take some intentional effort if I want to be something different or better than where I am now. Not that what I am or who I am is wrong or bad.
Right.
But there's next levels to this. There are levels to this life. And for the version of me that got me here did its job. But this version of me has to evolve again in order to get to the next level. So that means I have to put in some work. That means I have to go a little bit deeper into myself, questioning or even challenging some of my own beliefs or habits or whatever's that have gotten me to this point. Find out what really works. And I can't work on it if I don't, like you said earlier, you can't address what you don't even talk about. So we have to be able to talk about some things or address some things, and be okay in knowing that, okay, I lived through something like this before and I didn't die. I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to take me out. And even if I feel like it is, I can feel it, but I don't have to own that feeling. That is just an indicator. That is just information about the situation. But I want to see what's beyond this point. And even to your point of the book of Eli, to see beyond even when you physically can't see it. He had a physical disability where he couldn't see. But there was a vision that was deeper inside of him that even when they stripped him of the book itself, he had already memorized it to the point that it was so deep inside of him that it was able to come up. So it's a long-winded answer of just keep doing the work, accept the challenges. Don't think that it's something wrong with you or something. No, this is all part of the journey to become better.
Yeah.
And the better version of you is going to appreciate you doing the work at this point. Yeah. So the future you is going to be appreciative of the current you deciding and committing to the discipline that's needed to get to that best version of you. So
yeah, it's like you said, it's a major part of the journey, from the time we're born to the time we transition. It's temptations all around, and everything that we love, whether it's relationship, friendships, whatever, business, work, school, everything takes a level of commitment.
Yeah.
And there are going to be things around you that will try to throw you off track, try to get in the way of, whether you can call it the devil or you can, whatever it is, there's always opposition, something that's trying to block you or stop you. And a lot of times, I'll speak for myself. My biggest opposition has been me. And I had to learn how to recommit, and it's okay to recommit.
Yeah.
It's okay to fall sometimes. The most important thing is to get up and dust off and learn from the fall.
Yeah.
Learn what made me fall. People used to always say, you just ain't gonna know the answer to everything, but I'm very, very curious, especially when it comes, with life, but I'm really curious to what makes me tick, what makes other people tick, why did I do this and why did I do that? And I have to learn not to go down a rabbit hole and obsess with it. But I have to realize that in order for me to be accountable, in order for me to stay on track, in order for me to fight the temptation, I got to know what the temptation is. And I got to know what I'm fighting. I got to know why, this is so stronger than my goal to lose weight. Why do I keep eating stuff that I know I shouldn't eat? Why do I keep, procrastinating on something that I strongly know that I want?
Yeah.
So my encouragement and my advice is to really, like you said earlier, know what your why is. Really sit down, know what your why, know why you're in. All the whys. Why you tempted? Why you why you want to commit? What's going to happen? Like I was saying, a lot of our temptations or a lot of things come from us being afraid of the outcome. But sometimes we're so focused on the negative outcome. Sometimes what if, instead of change the narrative that's going on in your head, instead of looking at what can go wrong, obsess over what can go right.
That part.
And say, oh man, what is it going to look like when I lose this weight?
Yeah.
Oh man, what is it going to look like when instead of obsessing over what it's going to look like if you don't, really obsessed over, oh man, when I graduate, or oh man, when I get a raise or when I get this job, you know what I'm saying? Like really, really focus on the good. We have created a habit of focusing so hard on falling. So hard on falling. And I said, focusing on the fall. Sometimes we've gotten up and we still focused on falling. You done got up and you still. Yeah, so last week I fell. Yeah, last week, a couple of weeks ago, I fell, or 30 years ago, I fell, just instead of dusting off and say, okay, I fell. Let me get up. Let me see what I'm tripping on.
That part.
Literally, what am I tripping on? What's making me slip up? What's making me fall? What's making me run from, it can be stuff we learned when we was younger. It can be so many different things, but what's important is for you to figure it out for you, because just like me and you, April, our whys are different. The way we approach temptation is different. Everything is different.
Yeah.
But the goal is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, whatever it is for you that's listening, figure out what that is for you and commit. And if you have to recommit and recommit and recommit, then figure out why you have to keep recommitting.
Yep.
And if you need to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. If you need therapy, go get therapy.
Yeah.
But don't just keep tripping and falling and then bashing yourself for it. Go figure out why.
Yeah. At least equip yourself.
Right.
Equip yourself. Don't go through life fighting battles when there's so much equipment that's available.
Right.
Like, don't deprive yourself of available tools. And it does not make you any more or less of a person to utilize available tools that are out there that helps make you a better, stronger person.
Yeah. Just grow with it.
Yeah.
Get up and grow. Get up
and grow.
And grow.
That part. I like that.
Yeah. So, oh my God, this was a great conversation.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
And so, April F. Draine, thank you so much for saying yes and having this conversation. I'm looking forward to our future conversations.
Me as well.
Yeah. So
I'm doing my claps. You can't hear, but I'm clapping.
So to our listeners, a heartfelt thank you for taking the time out to tune in. It truly means a lot. So I hope that you find each and every episode valuable. As I said earlier, please take a moment to check out season 1 and 2. Thank you so much for joining us for season 3. Remember, investing in your intentional healing and growth is a gift to yourself. Until next time, be blessed.
Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk About Healing with Yvonne Pierre. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share.